What is fashion? Fashion is a form of social imitation. Fashion is cyclical. Fashion is not a price. Fashion is the process by which new styles are created, introduced, and accepted by the public. Fashion is art and science. Fashion is art through the creative side of fashion, the designing side of fashion, of clothing, of textiles, the designing side of stores, and visual merchandising. Fashion is science through the development of new textiles for specific ideas or purposes, such as cooling textiles, such as textiles to prevent fires. It is also the math that's needed to design patterns, to create perfect fit of clothing. It is the science and the math behind selecting the correct products for customers, to look at pricing, to determine what is selling, what is not selling, and what needs to be ordered again, and what needs to be marked down. Within fashion, there are 4 rules. You must be a brand, you must be legal, you must be fair, and you must be profitable. To be a brand, what does that mean? Look at the images on the screen. What do you see? Do you see 3 circles and a castle? Or, if we change those around slightly, what do you see now? Being a brand is presenting an image and creating an idea of what that company means to your customer, a way of being recognized within the market. So when we move those circles around, we now see Mickey Mouse. We put a sunset behind the castle and we see Disney World. We must also be legal. Being legal is looking at counterfeit versus knockoff. What's the difference? Counterfeit is where you design a product and you design it to look exactly like that product and sell it as if it is that product. Whereas a knockoff is using a product for design or inspiration, but having slight differences in the product. So what's the difference between counterfeit and knockoff? Counterfeits are illegal. Knockoffs are legal. Knockoff is where the industry creates fashion. It's how we get fashion at different price points in the industry. We must also be fair. To be fair is looking at being sustainable. It's looking at being
program called Worker Wellbeing, which is really focused on improving the lives of the workers in this industry. And there are, well over 10 million women, it's mostly women, who are making apparel products, mostly in emerging markets. And we've discovered that we can deliver a strong return on investment for factory owners if they invest in the well-being of their workers. And in fact, their ROI is really, really attractive. It's somewhere between 3 to 4 to 1. So for every dollar invested in their workers, they get a $3 to $4 return. And it's through simple things like reducing absenteeism and improving the quality of the work that they're doing by making those workers happy. And it's very, very simple, straightforward stuff, and it works. And we've now open sourced that program to invite not just other companies, but even our competitors access to the tools and materials and that makes this program work. My job as the CEO of Levi Strauss is to make sure that this company is around for another 163 years. But I also feel that this company has a responsibility to make sure that we leave the world in a better place than what we inherited it as. If companies don't step up and play that role, who's going to do that? I don't see the government doing it, and NGOs can't do it by themselves. And we've got the wherewithal and we've got the reach to be able to do that. And I think there is an obligation for companies to play that role. It's kind of the other bottom line that we're responsible for. A program called Work.
We must be profitable. In fashion, you're supposed to hate what you have loved before. Fashion is profitable by creating a desire for new products. How do we do that? When we look at fashion, when a product is introduced 10 years before its time, we see it as vulgar and indecent. 5 years before its time, it's bold and shameless. 1 year before its time, it's flashing and daring. When it's fashion, it's elegant and smart. 1 year after its time, it's tacky and dowdy. 5 years after its time, it's hideous. 10 years after its time, it's outrageous. 20 years after its time, it's funny. 50 years after its time, it's odd. 100 years after its time, it's charming. 150 years after its time, it's gorgeous. This is how fashion is cyclical. It goes in and out of popularity as it is accepted or not accepted by the general public when we look at specific styles. When we think of fashion, we think of fashion shows, and we think of apparel. But fashion is more than just clothing. If fashion is more than clothing, what other products involve fashion? Toys? Think about the colors of toys. Think about the toys that are popular for the year, especially at Christmas when they release the toy that you have to get that year. Our household appliances. If there wasn't fashion in those, everything could be white. But we like color in our fashion and in our appliances, and that's what keeps us going back and buying new ones. Kleenexes? Or tissue paper? Think about that. We don't want just a plain white box. That doesn't grab our attention. It doesn't make us want to purchase. How many of us have purchased a box of tissue based on the design of the box? School supplies. We have to have a certain color. We have to have a certain brand, a certain product. Electronics. They're always changing it. Our iPods and our iPads and our iPhones. Think about the colors of iPhones that you can have, or the different models. Appliances in our house. They're not just white. We can have them in color. We can have them in stainless steel. It's what keeps us coming back and buying new products. Our home, anything with our home, our towels, our sheets, our sofas, our decorations, all of that involves fashion. Even our cars. The style of our car changes, and we know when a car becomes 5 years old, 10 years old, because the style of it has changed. Can you think of a product that does not include fashion? You have to think really hard. Maybe there is one, but there are far and few between those products that do not use fashion to create a desire for that product. What I like about fashion is change. Change means also that what we do today might be worthless tomorrow, but we have to accept that because we are in fashion. There's nothing safe forever in fashion. Fashion is a train that waits for nobody. Get on it or get off. Well, fashion is never at rest. Fashion is embedded within culture and cannot be isolated as independent variable. Fashion as a reflection of the way of life.